The words, "You double-cross me, I'll kill you," were not Steve McQueen's final to his doctor in 1980. From his hidden connection to the Manson murders to the true reason he left fame at its height, the Hollywood rebel's last confession altered everything in the moments leading up to his death. More stunning than any of McQueen's films is the story told in Revelations. On his deathbed, the actor Steve McQueen came into this world in Beech Grove, Indiana on March 24, 1930. Dodd William was his stunt pilot father, but his mother Julia had an alcohol problem and was unable to care for Steve, so she abandoned him when he was 3 years old. When a kid doesn't have love, he starts to wonder if I'm good enough. Steve's growth was influenced by his experiences of being unloved and undesired. As a child, Steve lived through the Great Depression, a time when everyone had to work hard and save their money. His Missouri grandparents, Victor and Lillian, tried their best to care for him once he moved in with them. In due time, they relocated to live on the farm owned by Steve's great-uncle Claude. Living on the farm was challenging but rewarding in Steve's memory because he learned to rely on himself and put in long hours. However, due to dyslexia and partial hearing loss caused by an ear infection, he encountered difficulties in his academic pursuits. He felt out of place because of these issues, and school just made things worse. A red tricycle was presented to Steve by his great-uncle on his 4th birthday. Though insignificant, the present had a profound impact on his life. The tricycle ignited a passion for racing in all things wheeled that has lasted a lifetime. He raced in major events like the Baja 1000 and became noted for his passion of motorcycles. Over his lifetime, he amassed a collection of over 140 motorcycles. Lucas, are you ready to help me break down the all-time fastest and best-feeling motorcycle? Upon his mother's decision to return him to him when he was 8 years old, the experiences that began with that small tricycle became an integral component of his identity. Because Steve's stepfather was violent, she took him to Indianapolis to live with her new husband, but their situation deteriorated quickly. When Steve felt threatened at home, he took to the streets and became a member of a gang. According to him, being a part of a gang makes you feel welcomed and like you belong. However, there were downsides to being a gang member. He was homeless and stealing hubcaps for a living by the time he was 9 years old. Steve was severely beaten by his stepfather when he was 14 years old because he was found stealing "Touch me again and I'll kill you." Steve's entire identity was transformed in that moment. They fought back. McQueen was escorted to the California Junior Boys Republic, a reform institution located in Chino. He despised it at first because he thought it was punishing, but he eventually adjusted to the regimented schedule. After finishing college, McQueen changed for the better. Nothing had altered him more than that location. Because it meant so much to him, he continued returning to Boys Republic to speak to the youngsters even after he got famous and wealthy. The 17-year-old McQueen also made a significant choice. He enlisted in the Marines the day after his birthday, 1947. He was too young to do it without his mother's blessing. After years of putting up with his misbehavior, she likely believed this would finally set him straight. According to McQueen, he had been doing odd jobs before he joined. While stationed in the Dominican Republic, one of them resigned from his position with the Merchant Marines. The decision to enlist in the Marines provided him with purpose, and he began his basic training at South Carolina's Parris Island. However, things deviated from the original plan. He struggled to conform and retained an underlying spirit of defiance. He went from being a private first class to a private after 7 degraded instances. The worst part of his ordeal was going AWOL for 2 weeks to visit his girlfriend. He remained in the bag for 41 days, during which he subsisted solely on bread and water. The beginning was difficult. In spite of everything that was going on, McQueen showed courage. He was a technician and tank driver for an armored regiment. The bravest thing he did was In March 1949, while conducting an Arctic training exercise, McQueen's ship collided with a sandbar, causing numerous tanks and their crews to plummet into the frigid ocean below. McQueen spared 5 Marines from certain death by leaping into the sea without hesitation. He was greatly esteemed for this courageous deed. Afterwards, McQueen and the Marines began to experience an improvement in their situation. On the honor guard that kept an eye on President Harry S.T. Truman's yacht, he played a pivotal role. The position was highly esteemed and demonstrated that something was beginning to improve with McQueen. For someone who struggled so much as a kid, his promotion to corporal at the end of his service in 1950 was a huge accomplishment. The Marines, McQueen stated over and time again, were important in his maturation and transformation. During one of his several interviews, he remarked, "The Marines made a man out of me. I learned how to get along with others, and I had a platform to jump off of." He went on to explain that the lessons he gained from his time in the military were essential in his subsequent success. During his time as an actor, take The Great Escape, 1963, as an example. He was very dedicated to the film and even insisted on performing all of his stunts, including the now iconic motorbike pursuit scene. The discipline and focus he honed in the Marines served him well on film sets, where he was lauded for his authoritative demeanor and meticulous attention to detail. After leaving the Marines, McQueen maintained ties to the military through his support of veterans, hospital visits, and attendance at events honoring military personnel. The decision to pursue acting in 1952 transformed Steve McQueen's life. He went to school in New York on the GI Bill. His difficult upbringing and time spent serving in the Marines, from 1947 to 1955 to 1955, came before that. With the help of the GI Bill, he was able to attend prestigious acting studios, including HB Studio and the Neighborhood Playhouse. Surprisingly, his first acting role was in a Molly Pan play when he said the words, "All is lost," in Yiddish. Yiddish, which was an unusual beginning for him but revealed the uniqueness of his early life. He raced motorcycles on weekends at a local track while in school, earning $100 each time, which is equivalent to more than $11,000 today. Racing was more than just a means to an end. It became an obsession that would consume him throughout his life. McQueen's acting career began in 1955 with a small role in A Hatful of Rain on Broadway with Ben Hazara. Prior to that, he had smaller parts in off-Broadway productions like Peg of My Heart. He continued to work. He relocated to Los Angeles the following year to try his luck in Hollywood, settling in Echo Park. His breakthrough came in a 2-part story called The Defender on Westinghouse Studio 1. His performance drew the attention of a manager named Hilly Elkins, who helped him land small parts in movies. At about the same time, McQueen did something out of the ordinary. He served as a judge on a music show called Jukebox Jury. This was just one of many things that helped him gain recognition. In 1958, he won his first major role. A low-budget science fiction film called The Blob, in which McQueen played the role of a town hero fighting off an alien menace, earned $4 million at the box office despite having only cost $110,000 to produce. In addition to fighting the monster, McQueen's character embodied the defiant youth of the 1950s, elevating the film beyond a simple monster story and giving McQueen an opportunity to shine. Shortly after becoming a TV star, he portrayed Josh Randall. From 1958 to 1961, Randall portrayed a bounty hunter on the popular series Wanted Dead or Alive. His character was both tough and kind, which set him apart from other bounty hunters. The show was well received, and viewers adored Randall's distinctive weapon, a short rifle known as the Mayor's Leg. Steve McQueen's breakthrough role came in the 1960 Western The Magnificent Seven, in which he played Vin Tanner, a talented but unlucky gunslinger based on the classic Japanese film Seven Samurai. This role transformed McQueen's life and catapulted him to stardom at the time. He was not supposed to be in films, but he staged a car crash and pretended he was too injured to film the show so he could join the cast. This bold and dangerous move demonstrated the lengths to which he was prepared to go in pursuit of his career. On set, McQueen and Yuli Brynner, who played the lead role in the film, got into an argument. McQueen reveled in the spotlight and found little ways to draw attention to himself, like fiddling with his shotgun, shaking his hat, or adjusting his gun belt. Brynner noticed he was doing these things. It was a tense situation, but McQueen's performance carried the day. The film earned $65 million, equivalent to $60 million today, and catapulted McQueen to stardom. Years later, while battling cancer, McQueen called Brynner to express his gratitude and told him, "I am the king and you are the queen." Brynner was so enraged that he even hired someone to monitor McQueen's every move. Playing the role of Captain Virgil Hiltz, an American prisoner of war attempting to escape a German camp in The Great Escape 1963, McQueen became famous for his irrepressible and endearing character. His iconic performance, including the scene where he slams a baseball against the cell wall while in solitary confinement, became one of the most famous in film history. However, it was the motorcycle chase that truly showcased his star power. McQueen was a huge motorcycle enthusiast and actively advocated for this sequence to happen. The majority of the scene was ridden by him while his friend Bud Eakins executed the iconic jump over a barbed wire fence. McQueen's riding prowess was so impressive that he was cast as several German soldiers pursuing Hiltz. The Triumph TR6, which resembled a German motorcycle, is now on display at Triumph's factory in England. The film was a smashing success, grossing over $1 billion. McQueen's fame and the amount he earned from it have only grown. In 1966, McQueen received his first Oscar nomination for a dramatic role in The Sand Pebbles, a film set in 1926 China about a defiant Navy machinist named Jake Holman. The film was shot over 9 months in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and despite falling ill with Sander and losing 30 pounds and having to visit the hospital, McQueen continued filming between takes, keeping himself energized with milkshakes. The director and the audience were pleased with the result of his hard travail. Despite its heavy subject matter, racism and imperialism, the film was a huge success at the box office, becoming the fourth highest-grossing film of 1966. It received 8 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture. Critics panned the film for being too lengthy, but the director refused to cut it until he saw the reaction. Although McQueen didn't win the Oscar, the nomination demonstrated that he could play more nuanced and emotional parts. In the 1970s, Steve McQueen was at the height of his career with the crime thriller The Getaway, which he co-starred with Ali MacGraw and was directed by Sam Pena. The affair between the two led to a major scandal, and Ali eventually left her husband, Robert Evans, a powerful figure at Paramount. Despite this, the film grossed over $36 million in the US and Canada, despite having cost just over $3 million to produce. McQueen wisely negotiated to receive 10% of the film's earnings, which translated to 101,973 prisons. McQueen starred in Papon, a film about a man's escape from a harsh prison. Filming was difficult because most of the film was shot in remote areas. The film cost $12 million to make, which was a lot of money back then. McQueen gave an incredible performance, particularly in the scene where he emerges from solitary confinement looking like a broken man. Many consider this to be his best acting performance. The film was a huge success and recouped its budget in just 1 year. In 1974, McQueen took on the role of a fire chief in the massive disaster film The Towering Inferno, which also featured Paul Newman and Faye Dunaway. The film broke box office records, earning $12 million, equivalent to approximately $70 million today, the highest salary ever paid to an actor. In a dispute over who should receive top billing, McQueen and Newman agreed that Newman's name would appear first on the left side of the credits. In spite of the fact that his name was slightly higher on the right side of the posters, McQueen insisted on performing his risky stunts. The film was successful, earning $55 million in North America, equivalent to over $320 million today. It was nominated for 8 Academy Awards and won 3. McQueen was at the peak of his career, but the physical demands of his roles forced him to take a break. In 1974, when his fame was at its peak, he shocked everyone by withdrawing from Hollywood. During those 4 years, McQueen devoted himself to motorbike racing and avoided the limelight. He even traveled the country in an RV with his collection of vintage bikes, competing in off-road races like the Mint 400 and Baja 1000 under the guise of Harvey Mushman to stay out of the limelight. Despite turning down massive film offers that would have netted him over $50 million, he seemed unconcerned with the money. By the time he returned to acting in 1978, Hollywood had new stars like Al Pacino and Robert Cairo. With his last 2 films, McQueen attempted a comeback. Tom Horn, about a cowboy legend, had a rocky production, and McQueen even directed some parts without receiving credit. The picture received mixed reviews and only grossed $9 million, but some praised his performance and said it showcased a more mature side of him. The Hunter, his last film, was released just months before he passed away. It was about a real-life bounty hunter and had some action, but failed to engage audiences. The life of Steve McQueen was as wild as his films. He wed Nee Adams in 1956, and they were married for 16 years. They had 2 children together, but their marriage was troubled by his infidelity. Adams later claimed that McQueen told her he had slept with 535 women in the last 2 years of their marriage, which demonstrated the strain his behavior had on their relationship. In 1969, McQueen was nearly killed in a terrible accident. His second marriage to actress Ali MacGraw in 1973 was also troubled. They began dating while filming The Getaway, which ended MacGraw's marriage. Originally scheduled to attend a dinner at Sharon Tate's house on August 9th, but changed his mind after meeting a random woman. This decision saved his life because that night the Manson family committed their famous murders at Tate's house. This made McQueen very suspicious, and he began carrying a loaded Magnum pistol everywhere. Following his second divorce from producer Robert Evans in 1978, McQueen exhibited a domineering personality and persisted in his infidelity. His third marriage to model Barbara Minty in 1980, which ended shortly before his death, appeared more amicable and brought him some solace in his final days. McQueen had 2 children with Nee Adams, Terry, born in 1959, and Chad, born in 1960. Despite his chaotic personal life, he cherished his children. McQueen also battled long-term drug addiction. Nee, his ex-wife, stated that he began using drugs early in their marriage and that his use of marijuana, cocaine, peyote, and LSD only became worse. In one terrifying incident, he took peyote in the Colorado desert and rode a motorcycle, nearly killing himself. His drug use was particularly severe during the 1970 filming of Lemon. He partied a lot, which caused chaos on set and hurt the movie's success. He also abused prescription drugs and mixed them with alcohol, which made his behavior even more erratic. McQueen was known for being a wild person. In 1974's The Towering Inferno, he had an intense rivalry with Paul Newman. In fact, McQueen counted Newman's lines and demanded the same number, going so far as to hire a screenwriter to add 12 more lines for himself, a move that Newman sarcastically referred to as chicken In The Getaway, he had arguments with directors like Sam Penn-Paul, and their disagreements nearly dashed the production. Steve McQueen, the king of cool, began chronic coughing in 1978. Thought to be a minor issue, he quit smoking and took antibiotics in the hopes of getting better. However, his symptoms worsened, and he developed trouble breathing. After nearly a year of these problems, on December 22, 1979, doctors performed a lung biopsy and were shocked to discover that McQueen had pleural mesothelioma, an aggressive and rare cancer that affects the lining of the lungs. At the young age of 49 years old, he was diagnosed with this rare illness. His diagnosis of pleural mesothelioma, a cancer associated with asbestos exposure that typically takes decades to develop, shocked everyone. By the time McQueen's cancer was detected, it had spread to his neck and abdomen, causing him immense pain. Doctors believed it would never go away, and his prognosis was bleak. Within months, his condition was deteriorating rapidly. McQueen believed that his cancer had originated during his time in the United States, working on a troop ship removing asbestos insulation from pipes during his time in the U.S. Marine Corps. From 1947 to 1950, he likely inhaled fibers that stayed in his lungs for years, causing the disease. McQueen's case demonstrated the long-term health risks of asbestos exposure, particularly for veterans. Approximately 30% of mesothelioma cases in the U.S. are veterans due to the widespread use of asbestos in military buildings, ships, and aircraft during that time.